560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Well, 305. There's a couple of things. One, this franchise has made mistakes over the years, over and over and over. Do you have a time that it's like destiny? The Dolphins get to a fork, they always choose the wrong one. They passed on Breeze twice, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, and even Herbert. Now, the worst thing could happen to the Dolphins is win the next two games because they're going to argue, well, Tua was hurt and this and that. We could have done this, we could have done that. That's the worst thing. And let's be honest today. If it wasn't for Pearsall, the San Francisco 49ers, the stupid penalties that they did, they cost them two touchdowns. One, as they were forced to make a field goal on a first and goal. The second time they missed the field goal, again they missed the first goal because there was a holding penalty. 11 penalties for 90 yards, which feed the narrative. The Dolphins beat the bad team. San Francisco is a bad team, and they beat them. Against good teams, they can't do anything. And I'm totally disappointed with Holland. I mean, he wished he couldn't block. And on his contract year, he played like this. I'm sure probably they're going to give him a whole bunch of money because, that's the way Dolphins operate. But I think the worst thing that could happen if they win the rest out, they finish 9-8, and unfortunately, Chris Greer and they be back. And this guy has proven all the time that he's been here, he has not put up an offensive line, which is to protect the quarterback. Tua is a serviceable quarterback, is a good quarterback, but he's not a quarterback to carry the team on his back. That's a fact. And he has not been able to fix this team all of this time since 2009. He's been with the Dolphins, and he's been the owner of Raw. Hey, listen, Mr. Raw, you ain't got that many years left. Make a switch. Change. Go in another direction. You fired Adam Gase after 3 years. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear they had injuries. So did so many other teams. But if you were drafted correctly, at least somebody. I mean, they laughed at us when the reporters brought up the offensive line. They laughed. Oh, you guys are worried about what we are not. Well, guess what? And you don't have a backup quarterback? I mean, Skylar Thompson was your pick. These are all decisions made by Chris Greer, and he has to pay for it.
Yeah, that is one of those things. Failure to plan is planning to fail. Although I will say this to play devil's advocate, Chris Greer can go. If at the end of the year there's some questions about his job, as Stephen Ross had said, look at this team on paper. Tua Tagovailoa, top 10 quarterback in the league. Look at our receivers. Tyreek Hill, quote-unquote, the best receiver in the league. Jalen Waddle, the top 10 receiver in the league. Jonnu Smith, look, good choice by me. One of the top tight ends in the league this year. Broke records for the Dolphins this year. The offensive line, we know Tua gets it out fast, so we didn't prioritize that as much, although I still have Teron Armstead, who's all-pro. On the defensive end, I got Jalen Phillips, who I drafted. Javon Holland, he's having coming off year, but for many times he's been rated as a high safety. I've got Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb, Zach Sealer, who I found and I signed. I've also got Calais Campbell that I found as an older player, and I got him over in a career year. On paper, this team is good. I can give the chef the best ingredients. I can give the chef everything he or she needs, but at the end of the day, they have to execute their recipes. Now, I'm not saying Chris Greer should skate because we looked up a stat where some of the guys he's drafted, they're selling Pop-Tarts right now, but he can go to Stephen Ross and say, look at what I have. Look at what I've gotten. And, well, you haven't drafted well. The NFL is not about that as much anymore. It's about free agency. It's about getting players. And some of the guys I have drafted, I've hit on. Some of the guys I missed. And you bring up, they passed up on Drew Brees twice. The whole league passed up on Drew Brees outside of the Saints. So I do understand that. And the Dolphins and Nick Saban should never skate for what they did. They pay for that. But other guys, why'd they pass up on Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson was a very late first-round pick. It wasn't like just the Dolphins passed up on him. Now, I did see that Enigma documentary on Aaron Rodgers where we took Ronnie Brown with the second overall pick and let Aaron Rodgers keep slipping. That one didn't age very well. But, yeah, you're going to miss on some picks. But I don't know what the answer is right now. Is it Chris Greer? Is it Mike McDaniel? Is it both? Is it Stephen Ross selling the team? All I know is we won tonight. We still have a chance to win. And if we win out, I don't see a lot of vast changes personnel-wise?
Well, the thing that I look at this roster is that I'm wondering the formulation of the roster itself, along with the coaching staff. Is it a good fit, the two of them together? And that's kind of where I look at, is that this team went from Brian Flores, which was a hard-ass coach, toughness. You know, you had some grit there. You had your quarterback who was in the doghouse because of him. And then you went and decided, oh, we're going to go totally the opposite direction with Mike McDaniel and go with a players coach who's going to have, I hate to say it, softer players because they're not going out there and doing the things that Brian Flores was wanting with his team. You went totally the opposite direction because of what was going on with the roster. You had Stephen Ross going out there trying to bring in Sean Payton and Tom Brady here, which cost you a first and a third as well. Boy, would you like to have those two draft picks back right now. So the problem is that you went out and you had a roster that was put together, and now you've totally gone the opposite way and trying to get rid of all the players that were there beforehand. And now you're bringing in Tyreek, who, I'm sorry, I kind of believe is going on to the downside of his career right now, and you just gave him a long-term deal. You have Waddle, who's been injured a lot lately. You have Tua, who's been injured. You go out and you have no backup quarterback on this roster, as the caller stated. You could have drafted Brock Purdy instead of Skylar Thompson. Don't want to go there, do we? Yeah, but he's going to be a long-term signed quarterback with the 49ers because in that system he fits. So that's one thing there. But and obviously we're Skylar right now. Well, so, you know, but the thing that I look at is right now you have a bunch of aging vets that you gave long-term money to. And right now, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? And that's the problem that a lot of Dolphin fans are seeing right now is, where is that light at the end of the tunnel? This was a program that was looking to go to the Super Bowl this year after what happened last year. And where has it gone? We've regressed instead of progressed.
Because we're scared that we're going to get next year is the real put up or shut up year. And how long are we going to do this? And one more question that begs to be asked, and we're going to hear from my cousin Vladimir Lewisson, who's actually at the stadium getting some interviews. And he asks this all the time. Are you drafting for you to play in your division? Because you go finesse, and to be honest, kind of a black and blue division that you're going to have to play cold weather games at the end of the season against physical teams that want to grind it out on defense, and you go finesse. So you go the opposite direction. Maybe that's a fundamental mistake.
I mean, after seeing the Chiefs game last year, I mean, you went up to Kansas City, you played Buffalo at the end of the year, and where did this team go? It shrunk in the time that they needed to succeed. Unfortunately, that's what happened.
Cole, it isn't to his arm. I think it's that when the moment gets big, we need to get bigger. And now we haven't made big plays, big times, signature moves. That's the next progression. But 670-560 WQAM. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, it's Ebad from Hialeah.
Oh, good to hear from you, Ebad. How's things going?
Everything is good, man. Yeah, we got the win, but man, I'm still not satisfied.
Okay,
I
why
don't know,
not?
man. This feeling. Because I was in Houston last week, man. I see all these fans. We travel well, and this is what we get every year. I go to at least 2-3 games a year, and it's 30% Dolphins fans there. Usually 25% probably flying in, 5-10% rest of them from there, I guess. But we show up, man, and this is what we get. Look at Chris Greer. He's the main problem. You let all your drafted players walk. Christian Wilkinson, AVG, Brandon Jones, and you replace them with guys like Poyer. Come on. And then you're telling me we're building from outside in. You're supposed to build from inside out.
That is fundamental, Ebad. That is fundamental.
Yeah. So I know people are blaming Tua, McDaniels. It's not their fault. It's the GM's fault. No. McDaniels is trying to make you go to the playoffs every year since he's been here. What has he done wrong?
A lot.
There's no O-line, or we have no running game. Our running game is our screen game.
That is true.
You think Tua has time to throw those deep launches this year? No. That's why we need to get rid of GM and let the next GM decide whether to give Tua and McDaniels one more year. and then we'll see to go from there. But the biggest problem is Chris Greer, and all these fans that I've been hearing are correct.
Yeah, I'll tell you this: the offensive line needs to be addressed in the offseason. And I don't care how pretty of toys you see in the first and second round. Sometimes you might just have to say, we need to address some needs and not just keep getting guys that are quote unquote fast. Because last I checked, Jalen Wright's not doing too much. I'm not trying to pile on him, but if you have a bunch of Ferraris, but you don't have a truck and you need to move one weekend, what are you going to do?
That's true. We got Chris Greer since we drafted Tua. How many players has he drafted that made made a difference on this team? Probably like 4 out of 40 players, maybe.
Yeah, we've looked at the numbers are bad. The number that's the number he can't hide behind. His draft picks have not been big impacts.
The first 3 rounds, it's horrible.
Yeah, I know. I understand. He cannot hide behind some of the draft. Cam Smith can't see the field. Patrick Paul's a project, quote unquote, but you never know if he's going to see the field. Jalen Wright did not see the field tonight. And that's just this past draft. And I see Noah Iguanagani playing for the Commanders now. That was a mistake. You passed up on Penei Sewell. You did a lot of other things that were very questionable. And that's why Chris Greer is going to have to answer for those things. But we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Take one more phone call before we take a break. 305-567-0560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yo, it's your boy Duty. Where you at?
Duty. I'm good, man. We got a win. And you know what? We're still alive. That's where I'm at, man. Feeling all right. How about you? Where you at?
Oh, I'm feeling good, baby. We're still in it, so obviously not really looking good. But correct me if I'm wrong. Did you say Jalen Waddle's a top 10 receiver in the NFL?
I consider him a top 10 receiver in the NFL. He's paid like a top 10 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Like, why are we paying? I still don't understand why we paid him. What was it, $28 million a year? Okay, if he's top 10, who's the first above him and who's the first below him? Because I'm curious where you put him at.
I mean, I'll put him at like number 10 if I put him anywhere. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's too hard to tell, and that's the question a lot of people are having now. Is like, is it time to possibly, with all the shenanigans kind of wearing thin with us, Tyreek Hill dropping 3 passes today that he shouldn't have dropped, and his numbers declining? Yeah, is it time to possibly say, we're paying 2 guys way too much money to be a number 1 and 2? Maybe move on from Tyreek Hill and promote Jalen Waddle and see if he is worthy of the money that we're paying him.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case, man. It just does not seem like he's productive enough to be earning that kind of money. I'm surprised that we actually extended him this offseason. I don't think he was worth it. He drops a lot of balls. He seems to get injured every other game. I just don't think he's even close to a top 10. I mean, I maybe like on the fringes of top 20. There's some really good receivers out there. And if you haven't noticed, it seems like the receivers that are coming out are really solid. Like, there's some young receivers that are always doing well, and it just doesn't seem like that's worth that kind of money. And obviously, yeah, Hill was really good last year and hasn't gotten a lot of action this year. And obviously those drops, like, you can blame Tua or you can blame Tyreek either way. But, it's just, Johnny's my guy now, though. Look at this guy, huh?
Unbelievable, man. I watched him with the Falcons kill teams like the Saints for years, and I was excited to get him at the beginning of the season. A slow start, but, man, he has really, really come on. I do want to ask you this, Duty. If it comes to a point where we have to get rid of one of our receivers, whether it's Tyreek or Jalen Waddle, who would you like to see us move on from, and who would you like to see us keep?
Oh, dude, that's a tough one. Only because Tyreek still, I mean, he's just looks like he's taken a bit of a step back. And it's obviously, age is, time is kind to no one, Day. You know this.
I know it. I feel it every morning.
But still, I mean, Waddle just doesn't seem like he's worth that kind of money. Hopefully, if someone else is willing to take him on, I mean, I think he's still got some kind of trade value. I don't think anyone would trade us anything good for Tyreek Hill at this point with how much money he's making and how old he is. So, honestly, I think I'd have to pick Waddle to move on from.
Yeah, that contract is kind of an albatross around the Dolphins' neck because that is a big contract for an aging wide receiver that this year has kind of put up a few question marks on and off.
And Dan, we could have kept Van Ginkel and Wilkins for the amount of money we were paying him.
Van Ginkel had another sack today, by the way. I saw that on TV in a very close game.
He's an all-star, man. And I missed him. I wish we still had him. But appreciate what you guys are doing. Love it. Happy holidays. Love you guys.
Happy holidays, Duty. My dude, Duty.